Not all the properties in LWC re-renders. Some do and some don't. Knowing the difference between them is actually the difference between a beginner in LWC and someone who actually understands the framework. In this video, I am going to explain you what are the properties that re-renders automatically and what we need to do to re-render them manually. So without wasting any time further, let's proceed with the video. Now, first things first, what are reactive properties? A reactive property is a JavaScript class. When its value changes, it automatically triggers the LWC framework and re-rendering happens on the UI. In LWC, there are basically three ways in which we do such re-rendering. For doing that, we are actually going to use decorators. So one of the basic is no decorator at all, which we have seen in the previous videos as well. So when we are declaring a class field, when we are declaring a class variable over there, by default they are reactive and by default they re-renders. So we don't need to use any decorator over there. But there is an @track decorator which we basically use for a deep object. I have mentioned about this in the previous video, but we haven't discussed about it yet. In this video, we will see that in detail. And there is one more decorator known as @API decorator, which is actually for public reactive property. Now the key insight here is the LWC watches reactive properties and any changes triggers a DOM update automatically. So the JS properties which are decorated or maybe no decorated, when they are changing, it actually triggers and informs the LWC framework. So LWC framework detects those changes and then it initiates the DOM to re-render and show the new value over there. Now what are default reactive properties? As I told you, when no decorators are used, and they are used for the primitive ones like primitive class fields that can be string, number, boolean, all of them are by default reactive in LWC. So for them, we need not to use any decorator. If you remember, we have created a counter app in the previous video. If you haven't watched that video yet, I will recommend you to go and watch that first. In that, we created a count variable and we haven't used any decorator over there. And whenever we are making any changes in the value of that, it is automatically reflecting on the UI. But now it's time to use a deep reactive, basically reactive properties with non-primitive data types. So for that, we use an @track decorator. Now before I move into that, let me show you what is the need to have an @track and how we can use it in our code. So guys, here we are in our VS Code. As you can see, I have created an LWC over here. The name of the LWC is user card sample. In this LWC, in the HTML part, I am showing three things in 3 paragraphs as name, role and active. And the value of these 3 labels, I am getting it from a variable known as user, which I have declared in the JS. I also have a button over here with the label promote and it is calling a handler promote user. Now in the JS part, you can see this promote user handler. It is actually changing the value in the user. Now what is this user? User is actually a variable declared inside the Lightning element, but it is not just a simple primitive variable. It is having 3 different properties inside it like name, role and active with individual values over there. The promote user handler is going to change the value of the role property. Now it's a very simple LWC. I have already exposed it to our org. I just need to deploy it. So I'm quickly deploying it. And now once everything is deployed, let me go to the org. Now inside the org, I just need to edit this page. So I will click on the right side on the gear icon and right click on the edit page and open a new tab. Here I will close this standard and under the custom section, I must have user card sample. So let me drag and drop it just below the data binding. I'm not using any card. I'm not focusing on the UI right now. I just want to show you how it works or whether it will work or not. Now let me quickly save this. Go back to my page and refresh it. And now when I will click on this promote, it should change the admin to super admin. So let me click that. So you can see even if I'm clicking on it multiple times, but it is not changing the value and it is not reflecting here. The reason is the data type of the variable is object, and as I told you, on such non-primitive data types, the default reactive property will not work. So we need to use a decorator over here so that it can becomes reactive and the change should reflect. Now how we can do that? So let me take you back to my VS Code. For that we need to use the track decorator. Now the track decorator is also part of LWC, and when we are importing the lighting element here, we should add a comma and import track as well. Not just that, we also need to make the change in the variable over here, and we will use @track, and by using that we are making this user a reactive one. Now to see the change, let me redeploy it. Now let me take you back to the org. Let me open the inspect window. For that I will right click on any blank location of this web page, click on inspect. Now I can right click on the refresh button and click on empty cache and hard reload. Now if I click on this promote, you can see the role of the user is changing to super admin. So as I told you, by default with no decorator, the non-primitive data types are non-reactive. So to make them reactive, we have to use the track decorator. Now we have seen the @track. What was the problem? The problem was assigning a new primitive triggers re-render, but mutating inside an object or array does not happen by default. So the solution over here is use @track to make nested object or array mutation reactive. Since Spring 20 release, @track is only needed for deep mutations inside objects and arrays. Primitives and full reassignments are reactive by default. Prior to that, we have to use this @track with all of them. Now this was the code which I have shown you. And one more tip I want to share here. If we are using object and we are changing the whole object, that I mean to say in the variable we are reassigning the object, then it is also reactive by default. But changing the deep mutation of the object is not reactive. Now what's the difference between @track versus the default reactivity? So if we talk about reassigning primitive, definitely no decorator will re-render it, so it is reactive by default. If we talk about reassigning whole object, it is also reactive by default without using any decorator. And of course, if you will use @track, it will remain like that. So no need to add burden over there. By default, they works. But if you are working on mutating property, just like we did with the user role, or if you are pushing and popping to an array, definitely they will not work with no decorator. The value over there might change, but re-rendering will not happen. So for such scenarios, @track decorator is required. And of course, when you are in doubt, use @track for objects and arrays to guarantee UI reactivity. Now we have already seen the live example of it, where we are changing the role of it. We are promoting the user to super admin, and you have seen how it works. Now let's talk about reactive arrays in LWC. Now I'm not showing the demo of it. I'm just discussing about it and giving you as an assignment. You can do it by yourself and check it by yourself whether it works without @track and whether it works with only @track or not. But here I'm giving you some sample code as hint, and definitely you can utilize it and check it by yourself. Now array needs @track to react to push, pop or splice mutations. Now reassigning the whole array, you know, is always a re-render without @track. So if I'm talking about objects or if I'm talking about arrays, if you are reassigning them, if you are changing the whole array or object itself, you don't need @track. Only deep mutation require that. Now here's an example where we are having a tasks array with value like buy milk, code LWC. Now there is an add task which is actually pushing something in, and there is a remove first which is actually removing the first element from it. Here @track will make it reactive and it will work completely. Now in the HTML part, you can see there is a template for each. With the help of template for each, I told you that we can actually iterate over a list and we can show the value of individual value of the list item. Here we are just showing those individual tasks. But don't worry, I'm going to create a similar kind of thing by the end of this video. So stay tuned till the end of the video. Now, if we differentiate between @track and @API, if you remember in the beginning of the video, I told you about @API as well. So let's see what's the difference between them. Now, both @track and @API create reactive properties, but they serve different purposes. So if I talk about @track, it is used for internal component state, not visible to parent components. In LWC, we can have one component inside another component, where the inside component is child component and the outermost component is a parent component. But if we are using @track, it won't be visible to the parent. It will be visible to the internal component itself or to that component itself. Now it reacts to deep mutations in objects and arrays, and it is used inside components JS only. And I have shown you how you can do that. If I talk about @API, it is used for public properties from parent. Parent can pass data into the component. So @API is actually making it moreover public. Now I know some of these things will not make any sense for now, and that's why we are going to cover this @API in detail in the next video and not in this one. But definitely for sure you can understand @API goes beyond one specific component, whereas @track works in that specific LWC itself, where both of them is used to make them reactive. Now let's talk about some best practices for reactive properties. First of all, when we are using primitive fields for simple values, we don't need any decorator and they are by default reactive. We should use @track to make things reactive if we are making change inside an object and inside an array, and we are not reassigning the whole object and array. In case if we are reassigning the whole object and array, definitely we can avoid @track and it will work perfectly. And also we should avoid direct DOM manipulation. We should trust LWC's reactive system and we should not query and update DOM elements manually. Now this is something that we are going to create. Definitely I was a bit lazy and by designing the UI I left a few things, but I thought I will tell you while we are going to make it. Now this is something that is our objective, our hands-on practice for this specific video. Now the objective of it is to build a reactive shopping cart component. So we will have a card item type of variable where we are going to store information about the item name along with the item price. Here we are not showing any price, so there will be two text fields. One will deal with item name, one will deal with item price. User can enter item name and price and click on add item. The above shopping cart section will show those items over there. We will not only do that, we will also update the total items and the total price over here. Clear cart will remove all those values. Now this is something that we are going to make in our hands-on right now. So without wasting any time further, let's move on to the org again, move on to the VS Code again, and then let's make it. Okay guys, as you can clearly see, I have created this LWC over here. The name of the LWC is shopping cart, and in this shopping cart.html part, I have added a plenty of things. Now let me tell you what I have added and then we will move on to JS. So the first thing is here, which is actually a template for each. Now template for each will iterate over an array item, which I will show you right now. The name of it is card items. For individual entry of the card items, individual of them will be called as item itself, and I'm going to deal with the item name and item price, right? Other than that, here if you will move down in the footer part, I have added two text boxes and two buttons. One of the text boxes for item name, one of them is for item price, one is to adding an item and one is to clearing the cart. I have created different handlers, though I haven't added them over there in the JS yet. This is just a user interface. If you see the JS part, all that I have in the JS part is a blank array, and I have added the @track over there. Now let me quickly add the JS part of it, for which I am going to add the handler. But before that, let me deploy this. Just to let you know, I have already exposed it and it is on the app page now. So let me deploy. In the org, I will go to the app page and I will just refresh it. This is the app builder page of that specific page. Under the custom, I should see the shopping cart. Now let me drag and drop it over here. Under the counter wizard, now you can see the shopping cart is there with two options, add item and clear cart, and two options to provide item name and item price. Now let me save this, go to the app practice, and here let me just empty cache and hard reload, as the inspect window is already there. Though right now I don't need to do that, even the normal refresh would work. Now I'm going to add the handler and this should work. So I'm going to add new items over there, right? Now for showing you, I'm going to remove the @track in the beginning and I will add all the logic, and then you will realize the @track is important and then only it will work. Here let me remove this @track for now and let me quickly add the handlers. So in the HTML part, I am having individual handlers. The first handler is handle item name change. So I'm just copying it. In the JS part, I'm creating the handler. So in the handle item name change, I will have an event object and we need to have item name and price. So I'm having item name variable here and item price. So item name also as blank and item price. I'm making both of them as blank. Even item price I can make it as 0 as well. So this will only to store the value. Now on this handle item name change, the value of the item name I will change as this dot item name is equal to event dot detail dot value. We have already seen this in our previous video, so nothing new over here. Now we will go to the next handler. The next handler is handle price name change, bringing it here, and I will do something similar where I am adding this to item price. Now we want to work on one more handler, which is handle add item click. Now this is the major one. Now in this handler, I need to add the item name and item price, but before that I will make sure whether they are blank or not. So I will check if this dot item name and this dot item price, then only I am going to add it, otherwise I won't. Now this time I am going to add it in the card items. I have created that, right? So let me add that. Now if you see this line, what I have done is I am telling it that this dot card item should be equal to, and then I have added this array symbol, and inside that I am mentioning dot 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 this dot card items. Now what does this means? It means that whatsoever is there in the card items, add one more thing to it, and this is adding the name and the price element over there and providing this dot item name and this dot item price to those properties. One more thing I will do after this is I'm going to change, or I'm going to empty the item name and item price as well, so that if the user clicks twice or thrice on the add item, it should not keep on adding the same item again and again. And this should also change the value of the text field. So to do that, here in the text field value property, I'm going to provide the value of item name and item price. So actually I am doing two-way data binding over here. If you remember, in the previous video I have talked about two-way data binding. If you haven't watched that video yet, I will recommend you to go and watch it first and then proceed. So here you go. So we have already done with item name and item price. We have dealt with those handlers. We made it two-way data binding. On the click of handle add item click, I'm adding those items as well. Now on the click of this handle clear cart click, I'm going to remove everything from my card items. So it's very simple. In this handler, all that I need to do is this, and that's it. That means I'm telling that whatsoever is there in the card items, remove everything and make the card items blank. So I made frequent changes over here. I hope this JS part whatsoever I have done here is clear to you. If there is any question, don't forget to ask that in comment and I'm going to reply that immediately. Let me deploy this for now. Now guys, you can pause it right away and tell me whether it will work or not. Give it a yes, it will work, or no, it won't in the comment, and then proceed ahead and see whether your guess is correct or not. So I'm going back to the org, it's deployed already. I will just empty cache and hard reload, and I'm trying to add an item as pen, and I'm mentioning it as price 2 and clicking on add item. So I'm doing that, but you can clearly see nothing is reflecting, nothing is happening on the UI. Now let me add the @track over there. So this card items, I'm making it as @track. So now it becomes reactive. Now let me deploy it again. Now let me do empty cache and hard reload in the org again. And let me add the shopping cart items like pen and 2 and click on add item. It's not added. So let's see what's the issue. Is there any logic issue? So here in the JS everything is correct. I don't think so any issue is there. Okay, I got the issue and it's a silly mistake. That's nothing but a typo. If you see here, I'm mentioning about card items, but the variable name is cart items. So better to always copy things like copy the names over here rather than typing it manually. I did that and see, I'm suffering for it. So let's redeploy it. Now those who have answered in the comment as no, it won't work are correct, right? There's a typo. But I was talking about the logic, not this one. So let me do the empty cache and hard reload again. Again, I'm typing pen and item price as 2. And you can see that is added over here. If I'm going to add new item like paper, reel or something like that, maybe 15. And you can see it is adding dynamically. Now of course you will say the UI is not beautiful, and here our main motto is not to work on the UI. There are complete videos that is going to come in future where we are going to talk about styles and going to increase the UI impact. But right now our main focus is to make a trackable, reactable, non-primitive data type, and we have successfully done that. And just one more thing to check over here is to click on this clear cart. Let me do that, and you see cart is clear. So guys, that marks the end of this video. If this video have helped you in any way, don't forget to hit the like button. And if there is any question that is coming into your mind, don't forget to ask that in the comment. Be reactive just like these reactive properties. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, click on the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that any update should hit you reactively. That marks the end of this video. See you soon in the next video. Till then, thank you and take care.